I spent 50 years performing for people who aren't even alive anymore. That's the thing nobody tells you. The people you're so afraid of disappointing, most of them won. Be around. To remember whether you disappointed them or not. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When I was young, 22, 23, I was careful. That's the word I'd use. Not shy, not weak, careful. I watched what I said. I watched how I sat. I noticed if someone's expression changed when I walked into a room, and I'd spend the rest of the night trying to figure out what I did wrong. I thought that was intelligence. I thought that was being a good person, paying attention, reading the room, making sure nobody was uncomfortable because of me. I married Gerald when I was 24. He was a decent man, quiet, worked for the gas company for 31 years. He didn't ask much of me, and I didn't ask much of him, and we both thought that was love. Maybe it was. I don't know anymore, but I do know this. When Gerald proposed, the first thing I thought wasn't about Gerald. It was about what my mother would say, whether my sister would be jealous or relieved, whether the girls at the office would think I'd done well for myself. I stood there with this man asking me to share his life, and my first instinct was to calculate how it would look. I said yes, and it wasn't the wrong decision, but the reason I said it so quickly had nothing to do with him. That pattern, that constant checking, it was in everything. I wanted to go back to school when I was 30. I'd been reading about interior design, clipping magazine pages, sketching little floor plans on napkins at the kitchen table. I never told anyone. I looked into a program at the community college, even called once and asked about evening classes. The woman on the phone was kind. She said I could start in January. I didn't start in January. I didn't start at all because I imagined telling Gerald. I imagined him not saying anything, which was his way. And I imagined his mother asking why I needed more school when I already had a home to manage. And I imagined my friend Donna raising her eyebrows the way she did, not mean, just surprised. And that surprise, the idea that someone might find it odd, was enough. I put the magazine pages in a drawer. I think they're still there in the house I sold 11 years ago. That's how it works. It's not one big moment where you give up on yourself. It's a Tuesday. It's a phone call you don't return. It's a conversation you rehearse in your head and then decide isn't worth having. It's putting something in a drawer. Years go by like that. I raised 2 children. I kept a clean home. I volunteered at the church. I was on the PTA for 6 years. I did what was expected, and I did it well. People said I was dependable. They said I was thoughtful. They said I was such a nice woman. And every time someone called me nice, I felt a small thing inside me get quieter. I turned 40 and nothing changed. I turned 50 and nothing changed. I kept choosing based on what would cause the least friction, the least attention, the least talk. I didn't wear the red coat I love because it was too much. I didn't speak up at Gerald's retirement dinner because it wasn't my place. I didn't tell my daughter I thought her first husband was wrong for her because it wasn't my business. It was my business. She was my daughter. But I was so trained to keep peace that I watched her walk into something I could see clearly, and I said nothing. She figured it out on her own eventually, but she was hurt by then, and I have to sit with that. Gerald passed in. Arsene Ling Ju heart attack at the breakfast table. There 1 minute, gone the next. I called Joe Basie, and then I sat in the kitchen while they worked on him, and I remember thinking, this is not how I thought it would feel. I thought I would scream. I thought I would collapse. But I just sat there, very still, because even in that moment, some part of me was thinking about how I was supposed to behave. Whether the paramedics would think I was cold. Whether the neighbors would say I didn't cry enough. My husband was dying 10 feet from me, and I was managing my appearance. That's when something began to crack. Not right then, not that day, but in the weeks after, when the house was empty and there was no one to perform for, I started hearing how quiet my life actually was. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when you've been holding your breath for decades and you finally stop and there's just nothing there. I started doing small things, not big dramatic changes. I was 67. I wasn't going to run a marathon or move to Paris. But I started saying what I actually thought at dinner with my sister. Small things. I didn't like that movie. I don't want to go to that restaurant. She looked at me strange the first few times. Then she got used to it. Then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Where have you been?" She meant it as a joke, but it hit me somewhere deep because the answer was nowhere. I had been nowhere. I had been standing right here the whole time, just behind a version of myself I thought everyone else needed me to be. I'm 78 now. I live alone. I have a cat named Roger and a view of a parking lot and a body that doesn't do what I ask it to. And I think about all those years, not with anger. I don't have the energy for anger, but with this heaviness that doesn't go away, because I know that most of the people I was so worried about weren't thinking about me at all. They were worried about themselves. They were performing too. We were all just watching each other and adjusting, and nobody said stop. My friend Donna died in, our 10 leader cease. She never once told me she judged me. I made that up. My mother-in-law passed before Gerald. She probably wouldn't have cared about the community college. I made that up too. I built an audience in my head and I performed for them my entire life, and most of them didn't even buy a ticket. The things I didn't do don't haunt me the way you'd expect. It's not a list of regrets I go through. It's more like a feeling, like I lived in a house my whole life and only now realized there were rooms I never opened, and now my hands don't work as well, and the doors are heavy, and some of them are locked. I see younger people now, my granddaughter, her friends, and I see the same thing starting. The checking, the adjusting, the pulling back, the quick glance to see if anyone noticed. And I want to say something, but I know how it sounds. It sounds like an old woman talking. It sounds like something on a greeting card, so I won't say what they should do. I don't know what they should do. I only know what I did. I made myself small so that nobody would have a reason to look too closely. It worked, and it worked. Nobody looked too closely. Nobody saw me at all. And now I sit here, 78 years old, in a quiet apartment with a whole life behind me that was carefully, perfectly acceptable. And I wonder who I was supposed to be. I'll never know. That's the part that doesn't get easier